Thank you for joining us today, and we will be unboxing the DeWalt DCW200 sander. Now, first off, this is the B package, and what the B package is, it's the tool only. So it comes with the sander module, this little punch plate which will push holes through the sandpaper so the dust collection can work, a tiny little bag to collect any dust, and an instruction manual. There is a second version of this sander, and that's going to be the P1 package. And the difference between the P1 package and this B package is the P1 will come with an additional 5 amp hour battery, as well as a carrying case and a charger. For my purposes, I only needed the base package. I already own a bunch of DeWalt 20 volt max system tools, so I already have a bunch of batteries and I didn't need a case. So other than the difference between the charger and the case, there isn't any difference between these two packages. So we'll take a look at this. So first off, we're gonna need a battery, and I just so happen to have a 4 amp hour battery right here. Looking at the sander itself, it is pretty nicely constructed. It seems comfortable, but otherwise it is a standard quarter sheet sander. There are some nice features on this, though, that I wasn't expecting when I purchased it, and I was pretty surprised when I saw it. One of which is there's a speed dial over here, and this speed dial will change the RPMs of the sander from between 12,000 RPMs and 14,000 RPMs. Let's go ahead and connect the battery, and connecting the battery is a pretty simple process. The battery just slips right into the back of the sander. With the battery on, this seems fairly balanced. It's not that heavy. It's pretty nice. The one thing you'll notice is that the battery comes up right to the back edge of this chute that leads to the collection. I did read that if you're using anything over a 6 amp hour battery, you do need to get an extension accessory for this. So it's something to think about if you're using 6 amp hour batteries or higher, but in this case, 4 amp hour, 5 amp hour seem to be perfectly sized for this sander. Another thing to look at while we're talking about the battery is that this is an XR model sander. And what that means is it's extended runtime. All the XR tools that I've seen all have brushless motors, and this helps with the battery efficiency and will make it run an extended time on a similar amp hour battery than it would be if it was a brushed motor. Looking around the sander, everything else seems pretty standard. The one thing that is a little bit interesting is this mechanism for putting the sandpaper on. And you know what? Let's go ahead and put a piece on and see how this works. So I got a piece of sandpaper here, and this front button right here pushes this clamp up and down. So if I stand this on end and push this down, I can slide this sheet of sandpaper into here. I can then pull the sandpaper down, wrap it around the back, and this is more standard with the 2 push pins that lock the sandpaper in. I'll remove these, release them outward, put the paper in, push it down, and reclamp these pins back in place. So as you can see, putting the sandpaper in is actually really easy. This is probably the easiest sander I've ever had to put paper on, and I've owned quite a few of them. The next thing to take a look at is after the sandpaper is on would be to punch holes, and the purpose of punching these holes is to make little gaps in the sandpaper so that the vacuum that's inside the system can actually suck the dust up once it's been sanded off the wood. So we'll go ahead and put this on, and you just push it down, and then we'll remove it. And it did what it was supposed to do, and it punched the holes around the edge. So the next step to putting this sander together is to put the dust extraction catch bag on. This dust collection bag is designed to connect using just one hand. And the way this works is it just slides on in until it stops, and then you just give it a quick turn clockwise, and it snaps into place. Now what holds it in place are these 3 ball bearings. So when this goes on like this, they are kind of retracted into the collar, and when you turn it, they protrude forward, and that locks it into place. Now, this connects pretty easy, but a nice option is, what if we could connect this to a full-fledged dust extractor? And the answer is you can do that. Now, using the DeWalt universal adapter, which I just happen to have, the way the universal adapter connects is much in the same way as the dust bag did. You start by sliding it into place, and then instead of just twisting it, you actually got to hold this in place while you rotate the ring. And this takes a little bit more effort than the dust bag did, but it's still not all that difficult. Now you can screw in the adapter for your dust bag. And this will connect to pretty much any shop vac on the market that uses this size tubing. So again, a pretty easy fix for dust extraction, especially if you're going to be doing a lot of sanding. Now, these parts weren't exactly easy to find or figure out which ones work with this system. I did do another video of this when I was trying to find a dust extraction solution for my chop saw. And if you'd like to see that video, which explains what these part numbers are, how they connect, and what you need to connect it to your shop vac, then I will link to that video below, and I'll also put a link here in the video itself. So moving on from there, I don't think there's much else we can talk about physically on this sander. So let's go find some projects and put this to the test and see how well it does. This first test is going to be kind of a softball test, but we'll see how well the sander does with just knocking down some high spots off of this wall over here. There's a lot of areas where there's way too much compound to patch up punch holes from picture frame hooks, etc. And it looks really bad, and I just want to see if I can knock them down because we're getting ready to repaint this room. Well, as expected, it did really good with that job and knocked everything down pretty quickly. This will save a lot of time when I have to paint this wall, and it's kind of a practical use for this kind of sander. For the next test though, I'm going to do something a little bit more challenging, and that's to start doing some of the border sanding for our hardwood floor upstairs. So this next test is actually what I bought this sander for, and that's to use it as an edge sander for the flooring we just laid down in this room. I didn't want to have to rent a separate floor sander when I rented the main floor sander, so let's see how it does for this. The sander did pretty well on this, but it left a lot of dust on the floor. Now this is some pretty fine dust from the hardwood plus this wood filler in here. So maybe it was clogging up the dust collection, but you know, it is what it is. However, to use this to substitute for a floor edger, yeah, I think it's going to do fine. It definitely smoothed out the bumps, and once I have some really good sandpaper on for this, it will do a fantastic job and save me on some wrinkles. For our next test though, we'll do a better test on the dust collection. Okay, we're ready to test the dust extraction, and for this one I'm going to hook it up to the shop vac to try to get a little bit more suction. As everywhere else, there's a really bad patch job up here. It needs to be knocked smooth before it can be fixed up correctly and painted, so let's try to sand that down. So for some reason the dust collection worked really well on the ceiling with all the fine dust coming down. Only a little bit came on the floor, and I think that's mostly just flakes that broke off on the edge of the sander and didn't actually get sucked through the holes on the sandpaper. So because of that, I'm going to give it one more chance on the hardwood floors. Well, that was much better than last time. For this next test, let's see how well it can round out this corner of this piece of deck railing. Well, that was nice and easy, and now no more splinters. Well, thanks for watching my completely non-scientific testing of this DeWalt DCW200 sander. I don't really have anything bad to say about it. It was a really nice addition to my toolkit. I had bought it for the very specific purpose of sanding down those hardwood floors. And when I was doing those hardwood floor sanding, the only thing I noticed is the dust extraction wasn't so great. But then when I did the ceilings, and you're not really supposed to use these on drywall, but it worked pretty well to knock down the paint and some of the chunky plastering that was done. It worked really great with the dust extraction. Now that might have been just because of how good it worked with the shop vac, and having the ability to connect this to a shop vac is also another really nice feature. But when I went back and retested it on the floors, it worked great. There was no sawdust that got away from this thing. So I think that was probably user error. I probably didn't punch the holes correctly in the bottom of the sandpaper when I did the initial test. So with that said, I mean, this is a nice lightweight sander. It's fairly cheap at about 150 bucks for the tool only, about $250 with the battery charger and bag, so you can choose which model you need for your home. Now, it's really designed for light woodworking, right? So, you know, everything from refinishing doors to doing some light sanding to cleaning up some sharp edges. But I kind of abused it a little bit and used it to sand my deck and do drywall and do hardwood floors, and it performed really well for that. So if it performs really well for that, I can see it performing really well for light woodworking tasks. It was really nice to use because it was very easy to control. Once I turned it on, it would just glide across the surfaces. It didn't take very much effort, and it just let the sandpaper do all the work. The batteries were pretty good. I would say if you're doing a big project like I am with the edge sanding around the hardwood floors, that you have a couple extra batteries charged and on hand. I noticed at full run, it lasted maybe 12 to 15 minutes on a 5 amp hour battery, which was pretty good and will get me maybe through one side of the floor. So in order to get the sanding done, I'm gonna have a few on hand to do that. Great sander, did the job. And I think I would recommend it to anyone out there. So if you have any questions, let me know and put a comment below. If you like this video, make sure you subscribe to our channel and hit the like button. It really helps us out. And if you want to be notified anytime we come out with new videos, go ahead and hit that bell icon and we will notify you every time we come out with new content. Until our next video, stay safe and we'll see you soon.